Masters of AI2, hosted by Offo, ended a few weeks ago. It was once again won by Barbarian. Masters of AI2 was a medium-sized tournament which took up most of the year 2018, because 2018 was a relatively slow year for AI scripting and only started picking up towards the end of the year, the last couple of months. So the tournament started back in March 2018 and lasted all the way through to November. And this tournament was plagued by a bunch of problems with its format and rule set, which made it honestly less fair, and as a consequence of that, less competitively sound and less competitive than it should have been or could have been, because all of these mistakes in the format and the rules of the tournament could have been easily avoided by making different decisions for the host of the tournament, Offo. So I'm not making this video to bash on him personally. I'm just pointing out what went wrong in the tournament and what should be avoided, and what could have been different solutions to make the tournament better. And so we can avoid problems like this in the future and can have better tournaments as a result. Now, before I start getting into that in detail, I'm just gonna lay out the rules of the tournament as they are in the format. And if you regularly watch other tournaments, be it in AoE2 or other esports or even sports in general, and you pay attention to the format of the tournaments, then you should already be able to identify the flaws in this system. Now, Masters of AI2 is a two-stage tournament consisting of a round-robin group stage and a single elimination playoff stage. And it has 12 participants. They are seeded into 3 groups of 4 AIs each. Of the groups, the 2 top AIs of each group will advance to the playoffs, as well as the third place from the 2 groups that has accrued the most points. So we have 8 AIs in the playoffs. That's in just a normal quarterfinal, semifinal, grand final, as well as a third place decider in the playoffs. Now in the group stage, it's a round robin, so per group every AI plays each other AI once, and each of those matches is a best of 3, and for each map you win in the best of 3 you get 1 point, and for winning the entire best of 3 you get an extra point total. So if the match ends 2-1, then the winner gets 3 points and the loser gets 1 point. If it's 2-0, then the winner gets 3 points and the loser gets no points. And the standings at the end of the group stage will be determined by who has how many points at the end of those 3 matches. So that is a total of 6 rounds in this entire tournament. 3 rounds in the group stage, 3 rounds in the playoff stage. Because in the group stage, since it's a round robin with 4 AIs per group, each AI plays 3 matches. So that means one match per AI is 1 round, so to say. So we have 3 rounds in the group stage, and then the quarterfinals are 1 round, semifinals are 1 round, and grand final and third place decider together are 1 round. So 6 rounds in total, and for each of the individual rounds of the tournament there's a specific set of rules and maps that apply only to that round. So for example, in the first round of the group stage, the first game 1 and 2 will be in Green Arabia, and game 3 on Land Unknown, and all of those are 4v4s. In this tournament there are only 3v3s and 4v4s, no 1v1s, 2v2s. But the settings and the maps differ per round. There's a different set of maps and settings every round. And also the choice of civilizations differs per round. There are rounds which are all random, so the civilizations are random for each AI. There are rounds in which the AIs or the scripters of the AIs are allowed to pick 4 different civilizations, and there are rounds where the AI scripters are able to pick freely, so they can even pick the same civilization 4 times. Now, because there are some AIs in this tournament, namely Melion, which only plays four civilizations, and Doomsday, which only plays one civilization, which can't play random civ. They are handicapped in rounds where the settings say that it is random civ by automatically forfeiting the third game in a best of 3 if it comes to a third game. And if the setting for the round is that you can only pick 4 different civilizations, so you can't pick the same civ more than once, then an AI that can only play a single civ will have a 50-50 chance to forfeit the last game in the match if it comes to that. So literally a coin flip. So these are the rules and settings for the tournament. And probably the last thing I said was already standing out as the most outrageous thing, that the outcome of a match can literally be decided by a coin flip. But obviously that's just a symptom of the underlying problem there. So yes, the coin flip is bad, and if you're going down the route of forfeiting a match, if the AI can't comply with the random civ setting, then you should probably do the same for that one. If it only can play a single civ and you have to play 4 different civs, you should probably also just 100% forfeit the game instead of flipping a coin. So, but the underlying problem there is actually one which I can understand why it isn't solved in this tournament, unlike the other problems which I'm going to come to later, because those can be solved, but this one really cannot be solved. So this one is acceptable actually, because it is one that also other big tournaments for AIs have, such as the Davis Cup most noticeably. And the problem obviously is how to make a fair tournament if you have participant AIs that play all civilizations and therefore can go random civ, and other AIs which can only play a few specific civs or only one specific civ. Now, in theory, there are 2 different solutions to this, but really, practically, neither of those really works or are really feasible. Now, the first solution would be to completely exclude AIs that can only play a few or one specific civ from tournaments such as this, where there are rounds or in general where there are random civs being played, so they can't even participate. Obviously, that's not really that good a solution if you want to have a tournament which has a large variety of different contestants, such as Davis Cup especially, because there are quite a lot of AIs which are specialists and can only play a few specific civs. The other theoretical solution would be to have every round, if you have AIs participating which can only play a few specific civs, to make the rules such that other AIs can do the same things, that they can also pick specific civs for every round. Now the problem with that is twofold. One, it would be pretty boring because it wouldn't showcase the full potential of those AIs if they only play the same civs the entire tournament. If they are able to play random civs, and random civs is quite frankly a lot more exciting. And if you wanted to be more fair, you can also do a team random, like I do for Fan Crazy. And the other problem with that one would be that, well, most AI scripters aren't really that keen on picking civilizations. I personally don't have a problem with it, but many just refuse to pick at all and just go random anyway, or, which then again obviously makes it quite unfair, or if you want to pick not only one set of civilizations for the entire tournament, before the start of the tournament, if you actually want to pick properly, then you'd have to pick the civilizations like just when the game is about to be played. That would require the AI scripter to be online at that time, or before a specific match already determine which civs they're gonna pick. And that, once again, that's logistically impossible, because first, a lot of AI scripters have long since gone inactive. Their AIs are still competing, but they aren't around anymore, or they just aren't available that often and just don't have the time to take that much thought and put that much thought into it and make those decisions for every single game. Yeah, but like I already said, this problem of different AIs competing that can only play specific civs is one that other tournaments also have, and that can't really be avoided. Obviously, it wasn't done perfectly here. It had to find some kind of solution as to how to deal with this situation. Obviously, I'm also going to be interested in what Davis Cup 4, the next Davis Cup, will have as a rule for this, because I think there can be some more or less elegant solutions to it, but really there's no ideal solution for it, so I can kind of understand it. So much for the civilization picks. Now the next problem that I want to talk about is the map rotation and the settings changing between every round of the tournament. Like I mentioned before, there are 6 rounds in total, 3 in the group stage, 3 in the playoff stage, and for each specific round there's a specific set of maps and settings, mostly 4v4s and 3v3s being played, but that also varies. Like some rounds are completely 4v4, some rounds are a mix of 4v4s and 3v3s. Obviously the civ pick also changing, and most importantly the map itself. Like some of the maps that are being played here: Green Arabia, Land Unknown, Acropolis, Oasis, Woodland, Land Nomad, Gold Rush, Anatolia. I think that's all of them. But yeah, obviously this is also kind of understandable, but because obviously the thing here is you want to showcase more than the AIs on more than one map. If it's just all Arabia, like it would be in the Davis Cups, for example, that wouldn't quite be as flavorful as having them play on a larger set of maps, which is obviously what Offer wanted to do here. But the way in which it was done, that having a different set of maps for each round, obviously raises questions in regards to competitive integrity and fairness. Because it is quite obvious that not every AI is as good on every map. Like it's AIs are gonna be better on one map, more and worse on another map. And even specific matchup like AI 1 can be better against AI2 only on a specific map, but will lose on all other maps. So this could, in theory, completely influence the outcome of matches and of matchups between 2 different AIs, depending on which maps they face each other, which is completely arbitrarily determined in which round they meet each other. Which really shouldn't happen and could lead to results which are completely influenced only by the format itself and not by the matchup of the AIs. So this should ideally be avoided. Like how you do it, if you want to do different maps, that's another question. It's probably best not to do something like that at all, just to pick the same map or the same maps for every round, or do something more. Again, you can't really do anything like a home map thing or picking a map, because that once again would require the scripters themselves to do the picking, and we aren't too keen on that. Most of us aren't. So there's that. But still, this is something that I can still to some degree understand, and there isn't that good a solution to it if you want to showcase more maps than just 1 or 3 or a few. The other 2 problems that I'm gonna get to now are the ones that are completely avoidable and I have absolutely no understanding for. Now the first one is the point system in the group stage. I said already, you get 1 point per 1 game in the best of 3 group stage matches, and another point for winning the entire best of 3. That means depending on whether it's a 2-0 or a 2-1, so if it's 2 games or 3 games played, there's a different number of points given out per match. Now this really doesn't work with a round-robin system based on points, because if you're gonna do a round-robin system based on points, then each match must always give the same number of points distributed between the 2 AIs, and every AI must have the opportunity to gain the same number of points. Let's say, for example, that one AI always wins its games 2-0, but it loses a few of its games, and those are 0-2. So it doesn't lose any games when it's winning a match, but it also doesn't win any games when it's losing a match. Now this AI might be probably the strongest one that's competing, and completely dominant over most opponents, but because it of that 1 point missing per match, because each match there are less points given out in total, it still won't seem as strong as, for example, another AI which wins the same amount of matches and loses the same amounts of matches, but it always wins 2-1 and it always loses 1-2. So even though that second AI would struggle a lot more and loses a lot more games, it still will have a better score. That's just one of many possible examples I could give you of how best of threes and not playing all 3 games really skews a point system. Like best of 3 series or best of series in general really have no place in a round robin system. The solution to this would be obvious: just play 3 games instead of a best of 3. Just always play 3 games, and you're gonna have the same amount of games for every AI, the same amount of points per match. Easy. Alright, now for the last problem which I want to point out, which is quite frankly by far the most mind-boggling one. And I hope you already noticed it. 3 fucking groups. 3 groups. Why would you ever do an uneven number of groups if you want to have an even number of participants seeded into the next stage? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And you could already see all the other problems it creates just by trying to solve that one that you picked yourself. Why would you do 3 groups? The only way in which any tournament system can make sense is if the same number of participants per group advance to the next stage. The way it's solved here is... I don't even. AIs... Only the AIs from those groups advance that got the most points. Now you can already see how this creates problems if you listen to my last point, because some AIs get in this system get much more points than others, even though they might be the same strength, just because of winning and losing series dominantly, or winning or losing a game more or less. So this makes absolutely no sense, and I have no idea why you would ever implement it like that. I mean, I guess because 2 groups and round robin would have been too many games in the group stage. But then again, you don't have to pick a round robin format. There are so many different things you can do. You can do 2 groups and do a different kind of format. You could put a few more participants in there and do 4 groups, for example. Or you could even do something completely different like a Swiss system. But 3 groups, an uneven number of groups, and having an even number of participants advance to the next stage makes no sense whatsoever. And I have no idea what Ofo thought about when he made this decision. But there were already other things problems that were caused by this. Like I already said, I don't even want to get too much into like how the 7th and 8th seeds for the playoffs are chosen, because that's just an artificial problem that's created by the 3 groups, by having the 3 groups. But it also created other problems, like for example, how do you do the quarterfinal matchups? Like how do you design the playoff brackets? How do you seed the winners of the group stage into the playoff bracket? Because it would be so much easier if you had 2 groups or 4 groups, or a Swiss system, for example. And maybe not a Swiss system, but 2 groups or 4 groups, you definitely have a much clearer picture of those are the first places of the groups, those are the second places of the groups, those are the third or fourth places if it's 2 groups. And you can then seed the playoffs by always having one of the first places versus one of the fourth or second places, depending on if it's 2 or 4 groups. But instead here you have 3 first places, 3 second places, and 2 third places, or not even first and second places, but different amounts of points. And I saw Off was struggling with actually determining the quarterfinal matchups, and then also which 2 quarterfinals would lead into a single semifinal, because there was no system set in place for this. There is no intuitive system to solve this because of the clusterfuck that's created by having 3 groups. So it ended up just being more or less arbitrarily seeded by trying to avoid group stage matchups in the semifinals, which is obviously impossible. So he tried to avoid the most obvious ones, which is extremely arbitrary, honestly, and just ended up being, I don't know, might as well have made the rule that the quarterfinal matchups are drawn randomly, which obviously isn't competitive either, but it would have had the same effect. Alright, so those are the 4 big problems with the format and the system and the rule set that I wanted to point out. There were some other smaller issues with like just the organization of the tournament, but I'm not gonna get into those in public. And the question obviously now becomes, did any of those format choices actually affect the outcome of the tournament? Now, obviously this is impossible to say with 100% accuracy, but it would be pretty hard to imagine how it couldn't have been influenced by that. I mean, let me give you one example off the top of my head, and then let's just leave it at that. And the example I would give would be the semi-final matchup between Illuminati and Tribal Warrior, which in my mind could have just as well been influenced or completely determined. The outcome of that match could have been completely determined by which maps those two AIs faced on. Because the maps for this round, the semi-finals, were first game Golden Pit, which is a Gold Rush-like map. Second one, Anatolia, which is a map in which the flanks are very close together in the middle of the map and the pockets are very far away on the corners of the map. And the third game would be Land Nomad, which you all know. Now, if I had to look at this at those maps in this matchup before the match was played, I could have perfectly predicted the outcome of the match. Because I would have said, Illuminati is really strong on Gold Rush maps, so Illuminati would win the Golden Pit. Tribal would most likely win Anatolia because it is extremely strong in early game and its flanks are extremely aggressive and can usually kill the enemy flanks early on. And I would also give the Land Nomad to Illuminati because on Land Nomad maps, Illuminati tends to be better than Tribal Warrior as well. So how did the match play out? Exactly like that. How would the match have played out if they had met on different maps? Impossible to tell because they didn't. So just looking at that, it does certainly look like that the outcome of that match was completely decided by which maps they met on. And that's really something that really could have been avoided just by having the same maps in every round. If they had met if Illuminati and Tribal had met in a different round, for example in the quarterfinals, no, maybe not in the quarterfinals, but in another stage where there are another set of maps, then Tribal Warrior could have easily won the match, or Illuminati could still have won, but with a different score. Either way, it looks like the outcome of this match was determined by the maps they played on. Just an example. There are many more you could possibly think of just by looking at how this tournament played out. But yeah, so this video is really just to point out all of the flaws that I saw in this tournament, and it is really just informative so that in the future, if OFO, for example, makes another tournament in the future, or even other tournament organizers in our AI scene, that I hope you can avoid these kind of flaws and make a more competitively sound system for your tournament. And thank you all for watching. My name is Aleph, and I'll see you next time.